The child's cry didn't sound like anything I'd ever heard. It wasn't loud, not exactly. It vibrated, low and trembling, like the hum of a power conduit under strain. The sound rippled through the docking concourse of Port Helion, setting my teeth on edge and making the lights above flicker in sympathetic pulses. Conversations faltered. A few travelers backed away, hands drifting toward defensive implants or emergency beacons. At the center of the disturbance stood a Kethari woman and her child. The Kethari were new to the coalition, a species of tall, softly luminescent beings whose skin shifted color with emotion. They were known for their precision, their logic, their near-perfect control over bodily response. Coalition briefings had mentioned it more than once. Kethari adults do not experience emotional dysregulation. The child in her arms was proving that statement painfully incomplete. I have tried the resonance patterns, the woman said, her voice steady despite the chaos radiating from the small form she held. I have adjusted temperature, light frequency, nutrient balance. Nothing is working. Her skin glowed a distressed violet, even as her tone remained calm. The child, small by Kethari standards, with translucent limbs and eyes like unfocused stars, clung to her, emitting another trembling cry. The vibration deepened. Somewhere down the concourse, a cargo loader shut down automatically. Station security was approaching, cautious and tense. I hesitated. I was just a human logistics coordinator, no medical training beyond basic first aid, no diplomatic authority. But I'd grown up in loud, crowded places. I'd raised 2 younger siblings. I recognized that sound not as danger, but as overload. Before I could talk myself out of it, I stepped forward. "Excuse me," I said gently. "May I help?" The Kethari woman turned her gaze on me. Her eyes flickered, rapidly processing. "Are you trained in Kethari neurology?" "No," I admitted, "but I've helped calm a lot of children." A pause. Security slowed their approach. "The child's distress field is destabilizing local systems," she said. "If it escalates, they may separate us for containment." That, finally, cracked something in her voice. Not panic, but fear. "May I try something?" I asked. She studied me for a long moment. Her skin shifted, uncertain blue threading through the violet. "Proceed," she said. "I am Ilari. This is my child, Sail." I didn't reach for Sail. That mattered. Instead, I crouched a few steps away, lowering myself to their level, making myself small. The cry continued, but its rhythm wavered, curious despite itself. "Hi, Sail," I said softly. "My name's Jonah." The child's eyes flicked toward me, unfocused but searching. Ilari's glow shifted again, surprise, according to the translation band at my wrist. "They understand speech?" she asked. "Maybe not the words," I said, "but the tone." I took a slow breath and exaggerated it, letting Sail see my chest rise and fall. "In," I said quietly, "and out." The vibration softened, just a fraction. I smiled. "That's okay. You don't have to stop right away." Ilari stiffened. "I do not understand. The objective is to cease distress." "Sometimes," I said, "the goal is to let it be heard first." The child's cry shifted again, breaking into uneven pulses. Lights steadied. The concourse noise crept back, cautious but hopeful. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small metal ring, a focus charm my sister had given me years ago. I let it spin slowly between my fingers, catching the light. Sail's gaze locked onto it. "Can you hum?" I asked Ilari. I can produce tonal output," she said. "Try matching my pitch," I said, and began a low, steady hum. Not a song, just a vibration meant to ground. Ilari hesitated, then joined in. Her hum resonated beautifully, layered and precise. Sail's cry fractured, then dissolved into a shuddering sigh. The vibration field collapsed inward, like a wave settling into still water. The child went limp, not unconscious, but exhausted, and clutched Ilari's sleeve with tiny fingers. Silence fell. Station security halted, stunned. Ilari stared at her child, then at me. Her skin bloomed a soft, luminous green. The translation band flagged it as astonishment. "What did you do?" she asked. I shrugged, suddenly very aware of how many people were watching. I listened. Ilari insisted on buying me tea. Kethari tea, as it turned out, was less a beverage and more a carefully calibrated thermal experience, but I accepted. We sat in a quiet alcove overlooking the docking rings, Sail asleep against her chest. "I have never seen distress like that," Ilari said. "Kethari children do not cry. Not in that way." "First kids often break the rules," I said. Her glow shifted, amusement, tinged with unease. "Sail is my first," she admitted. "And my bond child." I raised an eyebrow. Bond child. "A child conceived through shared neural resonance," she explained. Two or more adults align patterns to produce offspring with balanced cognition. "And Sail?" I asked. Ilari hesitated. "Sail was conceived with a human partner." "Oh, that's new," I said carefully. "Yes," Ilari agreed. "The coalition approved the union for genetic research. Human emotional variance was considered beneficial." She looked down at her sleeping child. I did not anticipate how much. Over the following days, word spread. Not about me, but about Sail. Kethari families began requesting human consultants. At first, it was subtle, questions about lullabies, about physical closeness, about why human infants seemed to calm when held rather than corrected. Then, it wasn't subtle at all. The coalition convened an emergency cultural symposium. I was asked, politely, urgently, to attend. Ilari stood beside me as we entered the chamber, Sail cradled securely, wide-eyed but calm. "The data is clear," one Kethari elder said, their skin a thoughtful silver. "Human behavioral responses to juvenile distress differ fundamentally from our own." "You respond emotionally," another said, "rather than structurally." I cleared my throat. "We don't really separate the two." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Ilari stepped forward. "My child's distress did not indicate malfunction. It indicated need." The elder's glow flickered. "Need is inefficiency." "And yet," Ilari said gently, "efficiency failed." The room fell quiet. They asked me to demonstrate. I felt absurd, standing before representatives of dozens of species, explaining bedtime routines and soft voices and the importance of staying calm, even when you don't feel it. "Kids borrow your nervous system," I said, trying to put words to instinct. "If you're calm, they learn calm. If you're afraid of their feelings, they get bigger." "Fascinating," one delegate murmured. "You regulate by co-experience." "Yeah," I said. "We go through it together." The Kethari listened. They didn't all agree. Some called it dangerous, encouraging emotional volatility, undermining discipline. Others saw possibility. Hybrid families like Ilaris became test cases, then examples. Sail grew. So did the questions. I stayed on Port Helion longer than planned, consulting, translating human practices into concepts the Kethari could accept. We talked about holding without restraint, about naming feelings instead of suppressing them, about patience as a skill rather than a flaw. Ilari became my closest collaborator. And my friend. One cycle later, the crisis came. A Kethari nursery habitat experienced a resonance cascade, multiple children in distress simultaneously. Systems began to fail. Containment protocols threatened to isolate the children from their caregivers. Ilari contacted me immediately. "They will remove them," she said, her glow frantic despite her controlled tone. "They believe separation will stabilize the field." "It won't," I said. "It'll make it worse." "I know," she said. "But they won't listen to me." "Then they'll listen to me," I said, already moving. We arrived to chaos. Soft cries overlapping, the air trembling with uncontrolled resonance. Caregivers stood frozen, uncertain, terrified of doing the wrong thing. I didn't wait. I stepped into the center of the habitat and sat on the floor. Ilari followed. I began to hum. Low. Steady. Ilari joined, then another Kethari, then another, each matching pitch imperfectly, emotionally. Caregivers knelt, held their children, breathed with them instead of at them. The resonance shifted. It didn't vanish, but it harmonized. Systems stabilized. The field softened. Children calmed. In the aftermath, no one spoke for a long time. Then the eldest Kethari present bowed, to me and to Ilari. "We have misunderstood our young," they said, "and perhaps ourselves." The coalition declared it a breakthrough in cross-species development. I declined the accolades. Ilari and I stood later by the viewport, watching ships drift past. "Sail will grow in 2 worlds," she said. "Yeah," I replied. "That's not easy." "No," she agreed. "But perhaps it is necessary." Sails stirred, then smiled in their sleep, a small, unmistakably human gesture. Ilari's glow warmed to a color I hadn't seen before. "What do humans call this?" she asked. "This feeling when distress passes and connection remains?" I smiled. "Relief," I said, "and love. Sometimes both at once." She considered that, then nodded. "Then I will learn them," she said, "for my child." As I left Port Helion weeks later, I realized something important. The Kethari hadn't needed a new technology. They needed permission to feel. And all it had taken to show them the way was a human willing to sit on the floor, hum softly, and stay.